with that type of responsibility most 22, or they're just, drinking and partying, right? Because we can finally go to the club or something. legally go to the club.
Yes.
So wow, that's I've never heard a story like that. So I didn't expect it to be that crazy. Wow. But yeah. Anyways, kind of fast forward that portfolio till today. So does your family, do you still currently own that portfolio, or what does it look like today for your family?
So I still have a portfolio manager that manages my family side. So actually, beyond just like regular check-ins with them to make sure things are, staying managed. And sometimes they'll ask me for big decisions, like we needed to like earthquake retrofit a property, which was going to be like 500,000. So, I had kind of a say in how that was going to be run. But beyond, really big financial decisions, they don't involve me in the day-to-day, which is nice, and everything kind of just operates on its own. But for me personally, that's where I started my journey into I call it passion-driven investing. Or like impact-driven investing. So for me, I think because like I had kind of the confidence that I could succeed in my career, and I already had a pretty good job, like working in tech, and that baseline. So I wasn't starting with like, just straight out of college with no funds, right? So because I had kind of that confidence of like, oh, I can always fall back on this if the real estate thing doesn't work, I just go back to tech. Because I started with that mindset, I was like, okay, what do I need to do in order to create a life of passion and do the things that I really would love to do? And for me, that was in the mental health space and giving back there. So I was very intentional about creating, like even with our flipping business, or when we started rentals and Airbnb, the overarching message of what we do is that it is impact driven. Like we give back to charity. We really believe in helping people with mental health challenges. And from that standpoint, I've never, I guess, shied away from money. Like it wasn't a feeling of guilt, because I always knew that no matter like what I do and how much wealth I create, I'm going to be able to help more people and give back. So that really served us well in just like, the way that we structured the business and the messaging, because people really resonate like, wow, you're doing something different than most investors, where nothing wrong with it. I totally see why a lot of investors are focused on creating wealth for themselves. But I think just, knowing that like I could always fall back on like my tech career and sort of the capital that I've built, with my specialty knowledge there, gave me so much more confidence just to take like really big risks and massive action in the real estate space, and just be like, hey, we're gonna like do this big thing and move forward, start investing in real estate and rentals, flipping properties, because I wanted to fulfill this dream of ultimately living, lifestyle freedom. And for me, lifestyle freedom meant I can do whatever I want with my time. And that has evolved actually, where in the beginning I was like, oh, I would love to just volunteer all day. Let me just like have no paycheck. I'll just take the passive income, get a paycheck from that. And then I can like volunteer with all these organizations and help people and be boots on the ground. That's evolved because I realized like I actually love business. And I love, I don't think I could do too many activities where I don't trade my time for money. And just realizing that I can make such a bigger impact when I am, using my skill sets to create wealth. Over time, I kind of just combined all the things that I love doing. Like I really loved hosting our Airbnb guests. I love the design aspect. I love travel, going to retreats. And I arrived at creating a wellness retreat focused on mental health. And then fast forward, kind of created a vision of us moving to Hawaii and building a wellness retreat out here. And have you ever heard of the book Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold?
Yep, read it recently, actually.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you're right on track. So I read that book and it said, create a vivid vision, a 3-year vision. And I was like, sure, I'll do it, whatever. I'll just follow this thing. And I wrote out the vision and in the book it says like share with everybody publish it, put it on your website, share it with your friends, share it with your coworkers. I honestly didn't do that. I wasn't brave enough to share my vision. I was a little afraid. And I thought, people would think I'm crazy. So I was like, I'm just going to keep it with myself and maybe share bits and pieces in passing. And I kind of would just tell people like, I have a dream of like maybe like opening a wellness retreat someday. And this is what I want to do and focus on mental health and blah, blah, blah. And people were really supportive of it. So, fast forward almost to the like 3 years from the day that I wrote the vision, pretty much I would say like 80% of it had come true. In terms of like how much wealth we had, the passive income number, us moving to Hawaii happened in 3 years. Like we were on track to like finding the retreat. So all these things happened because I wrote that vision. And even though I didn't like share it much, it still came true. So I'm such a believer in manifestation and just creating this super vivid vision. I guess just sharing bits and pieces of it. But I think if you really want to maximize, like put it out in the world, because what I found is the more people I shared it with, the more people were helping us along that journey and sharing with other people like, oh, I have a friend, she's looking to move to Hawaii, she wants to buy this property, and kind of like referring me and helping further me along and scale on my journey.
Yeah. Wow. A lot to unpack there, but I think kind of something that I thought that was really genius that you did. I kind of call the term asymmetrical bet. So basically, as you mentioned, your worst case scenario was your tech job, which pays well. For people don't know, for the most part, I'm from the Bay Area as well. I relocated to Southern California, but tech jobs pay well, and I'm in the same situation. I'm a pharmacist. My worst case is I'm a pharmacy director at a hospital, and I'm one of the highest paid pharmacists, relatively speaking, because I'm the director. That's my worst case scenario. Best case scenario, if you pursue something, whether it's real estate, business, combination of all the above, passion driven, your upside is way higher, right? Because your job, as you're kind of stagnant, especially healthcare. It's like your salary is like a flat line. Like I made the same as I made 10 years ago, but 10 years ago, gas wasn't, $6. And houses were half the cost as they are today, especially in the Bay Area. So you basically took a asymmetrical bet where I'm going to try it. If I fail, my worst case is I'm a tech worker, just like everyone else our age, right? That's your typical worker. But if you succeed, then you have the potential to get the life that you want. So really love that concept. I've been thinking about a lot more, like especially when analyzing deals. You got to look at the upside, but also what's the downside. And like my mobile home park, for example, my downside was I would break even, worst case, and wasted all this time and learned along the way. Upside is like, could be a golden goose where it can just help me leave the rat race. So I took that bet, and it's not too bad if you kind of measure it out. And then another thing, you kind of touched on it, vivid vision. So, for me, I kind of read that book recently. Obviously, I'm a skeptical person by nature. If you meet any pharmacists, we're skeptical by nature. And I was very skeptical of like manifestation of the big vision. But I started doing it recently. And I will say that, when you're trying to build a real estate portfolio, if you're trying to build wealth, if you're trying to build a business, it's very challenging. You're going through lots of challenge on a daily basis, and you're getting beaten up every single day. So by doing the vivid vision and just like, positive affirmations, visualizing your success, being very clear, visualize your success as clearly as possible. I started doing that, and I noticed like my energy, my mood would change by me doing that. I'm super skeptical, right? Like I'm the most skeptical person, and just by me doing that, it definitely changed my mindset. And when you're less stressed, you're better able to make better decisions, and you're able to see opportunities that present themselves to you.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's how the world brings it back to you. If you're too stressed in your mind, you can't think creatively. You can't think outside of yourself. You're just so focused on doing this, right? Whatever's in front of you. And I fell into that trap, right? So that's why I kind of love to talk about mental health as well, because I'm a pharmacist, right? We prescribe a lot of Prozac and all those antidepressants. 1 in 3 Americans have some type of mental health disorder. 1 in 3 millennials are on like Celexa 20 milligrams. It's crazy. You'll be surprised how many people are on antidepressants, and they're just not sharing about it. And you kind of mentioned it earlier, where especially in the Asian American community, it's not really talked about. It's very frowned upon, and it's just kind of like admitting that you're not good enough if you admit to any disorders. That's why there's a lot of Asian Americans are hoarding because they have some sort of OCD and they're untreated. They have some sort of depression. They have some sort of anxiety, right? It's stressful to have to leave your country, flee a country, and then come here and start from scratch, right? Like that can take the best of you. So, really like how, you're kind of pivoting, your business, your real estate into like a wellness center. And, and there's phases too, or even me, like I went through a pretty dark period. I'd probably say the past like 4 months of just stress and anxiety and getting beaten up. So even like the best of us, right? I'm in healthcare. I know all about all this stuff. And even I get beaten up, right? And it's hard. So, and sometimes you feel alone, right? Like it's not very relatable to say, hey, I own like 90 units of real estate. People are like, boo-hoo. So so sad that you have so much wealth, right? So, it's really nice that, you're doing that. And what I kind of will say is there's kind of a concept where you cannot help others unless your cup is full. Like if you're on an airline and, there's a lack of oxygen, what do they always say? Give yourself the mask first before you give the mask to others. So I think you were able to kind of fill your own cup first, take care of yourself, your needs, and that allowed you to pursue your true purpose of helping others and giving back. So, and then kind of my question after that huge rant is, what's kind of your plan with the wellness retreats? Like, what's kind of your goal with that?
Yeah, I love how you said, even though I'm in the healthcare industry and I, work with people that have these disorders and these illnesses, and you see it day in, day out, and you know how to take care of yourself, and yet you lack the time sometimes to focus on yourself. That's what I'm trying to address actually with my retreat. Is I recognize like people work really, really hard and they get burned out. And a lot of times you're not recognizing when you're in it. And I myself have been there. But I think because I have a worldview of mental health, I didn't share this earlier, but I now know that my dad was faced with caregiver PTSD. And that's why he just crumbled and was like unable to even pick up the phone, open mail. He was depressed, was in bed a lot with the lights out for days on end because of the stress of taking care of our finances, and my mom and myself and everybody else. He forgot to put himself first. So just seeing what can happen to people's lives, lives that you've spent maybe a lifetime building, multiple generations building, and all of that can disappear because one person has a severe illness. To me, it was very eye-opening, and I realized like how many other people need support and help and to focus on themselves, to heal themselves. And you're absolutely right. It's you have to fill your cup first. And that's the approach that I've taken in wealth creation as well, is yes, wealth building is important, but without you taking care of yourself, your spirituality, your health, relationships, all those other things, none of the wealth matters.
Yeah.
Who cares, right? You can't be, even billionaires. I have my mentors are in billionaire circles, and they're like, oh, a lot of these billionaires, it's like on the edge, living on the edge. They some of them are suicidal. Some of them are, everything is falling apart. The only thing they have is their wealth. And so it's like, you look at them and you think they're on top of the world. They're some of the most successful people on earth. And yet their lives aren't in order. So like, what's the point? What's the point of you even putting all that effort if you can't enjoy it? And so that's kind of the standpoint that I take when I'm building my wellness retreat, is like, you need to take that time for you. Come here on like that focused time to heal and recognize like whatever you're holding on to, the limiting beliefs, the baggage, the trauma, let's address that. Let's take care of that. Let's heal that. And let's put that behind you. Now, what kind of life do you want to create? And I'm going to help people create a life of more purpose, a life of health and wealth and success. And what that means is it's going to be a ripple effect, is when people heal. So have you ever heard of the saying, hurt people hurt people?
Yes.
So hurt people, right? But also healed people heal people.
Yeah.
And so I'm really, taking that standpoint of like, of creating like a ripple effect of healing, and I call it contagious healing, which is where I'm helping people that maybe are lacking in purpose, maybe have recognized that they're burnout. You said 1 in 3 millennials are on antidepressant medication, right? I want to address that. I want to do it in a way where you're not reliant on medication to address these things in your life. I strongly believe there's a different way. And so, having people come away from their work, just be disconnected, come to a beautiful space. My retreat is located on 2.25 acres of agricultural land in Hawaii with the oceans. You can see the ocean from our property. It's surrounded by trees, completely secluded. So it's just a place for people to really focus on themselves and their healing and create a life of purpose and define that. And then I want to give them like an actionable framework so that they can take the steps in order to have a life of balance and have it all. Because once you fill your cup, you are unstoppable.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you kind of shared that, because for those who don't know, schizophrenia is a tough disease to treat. Like even with medications, like in my hospital I work at, we have a psychiatric ward, and typically they're filled with schizophrenics, and it's really, really challenging disease to treat. They're very volatile, so as you mentioned, it does put a lot of strain on the partner, like so your dad in this case, and then it creates a lot of generational trauma for even like if you're raised by someone with schizophrenia. Like I've seen friends, unfortunately, where they're raised by a mom that has schizophrenia, and it definitely passes down. It's generational trauma. That's how it happens. So as you mentioned, hurt people, and as I kind of got older and a little more mature, I kind of realized that all these angry people, when they yell at you or just really rude, especially in the hospital, it's just like they're hurting and they just don't have a way to express it, and you just happen to be there. But then once you kind of learn that, oh, these people are just hurting in a way, they might be broken in a way, or never had an opportunity to self-reflect on it in a way. So that's just their outlet. So don't take it personally, and try to give them that help. So love that you mentioned that, and it's true, right? And I think kind of what helped me personally is, obviously social media, or, the digital age is a blessing and a curse, right? Blessing in the sense of you can literally build a side income business while working full time, like what I'm doing. There's a lot of free information out there, but the downside is there's a lot of distractions. Your brain is always on, right? Like if you wait in the elevator for 10 seconds, what's everyone doing? They're pulling their phone out and they're looking at it. We're like addicted to our phones. So what I really learned that helped me was just like detaching from your phone a little bit. For me, I mute all notifications on my phone. And so you don't feel like you're at mercy of your phone. Like you always hear a little ding sound, or you see a little red flash. Oh, I got a new notification, a new email. Someone liked my post, and you're just like constantly on and wired. And honestly, our brains aren't smart enough. We have very caveman-like brains. We're not supposed to have that much stimulation constantly. So it's nice that, where you're at, there's a lot of land, there's a little bit quieter in Hawaii, obviously. compared to Los Angeles where I'm at. So it's definitely nice that you're doing that. And I will say from personal experience, like just having that solitude. So start your morning slow. Don't start your morning in a panic, right? That's where people fail. You woke up late, scrambling to work, everything is falling behind. So, that's what I kind of done personally. And I drive in silence. I have an hour commute. I'll drive in complete silence sometimes. And most people freak out by that. But I'm like, you'll see your brain racing. And after about 20 minutes, there's just stillness. And that's when you get your best ideas, to be honest, and solving issues. So it's just kind of been, my personal experience. So no, that's amazing what you're doing, because it definitely is an issue. I see the worst of it, unfortunately, being in the hospital end. But what you're doing, like you said, antidepressants are supposed to just be a temporary. It's not supposed to be the permanent solution. And, the solution is fixing your lifestyle and, finding a way to find purpose or give back or whatever that is. So, dude, definitely love what you're doing. That's impressive, actually. Coming from someone in a healthcare background for the past 10 years. We're just so trained in the hospital, medicate and go home, right? Unfortunately. So, okay, let's fast forward till today. So, what does kind of your real estate portfolio look like for yourself?
So right now we have, I think I literally just reached 100 units. Actually, it's kind of funny. I reached 100 units right before I was asked to speak on the panel. So it's kind of like funny timing. I actually didn't include the syndications that I'm part of. I just felt like it was kind of a cop out. So all of my properties are either individually owned between my husband and I, or we have partners on them. There's a small group of partners to own multifamily properties. We started out with, I think it was like a 3-unit in Concord back when we were in the East Bay area. And I wanted to be hands-on. I wanted to help, renovate the property and fix the garden. And I was scrubbing floors and preparing for my renters. And I was very, very involved in the rental process and who the renters were and all the details. And I would send them gifts Christmas and give them little notes. And, I was just trying to be a good landlord and kind of do things differently in the way that I hadn't seen other landlords operate their rentals. And then I realized as I continued my career or my real estate journey and my investment journey is that you can't be too close to your properties because you start to have a very strong emotional attachment to them. And there was no ROI in me going to these properties and scrubbing floors. And, my tenants weren't paying any more rent because I was the one scrubbing their floor. So my mindset really had to shift from being kind of that technician, like the manager, and really into an entrepreneurial role of like, where are my skill sets? My skill sets are in networking, in business, in finding deals, in assessing, the ROI on these investments. What's the value add? Like these are the things where I can use, my brain, my skills to do that other people can't. And I can leverage other people's skill sets like a cleaner, a handyman, all those things to do those tasks for us. And I'm better, my hourly rate and my time is better spent on focusing on the business. So it took a while for me to shift. A big game changer was reading the E-Myth for the real estate investor. That was a great book for me to think of my operation as an entrepreneur instead of, as somebody that's trading their time for money, kind of like a laborer. And also 4-hour work week was like a game changer for me, and just like how, I had to do a lot of mindset shifts about, what it meant to be an entrepreneur and what are you trading, right? Is it time? Is it money? What kind of assets? What kind of skill sets do you bring to the table? So being more intentional about that, kind of began to scale and then got turnkey properties at first because I was like, I don't have time right now. I'm still working with my career, wanting to further that. I just knew I wanted to start building passive income, but I had no time to like figure out how to find deals or anything. Bought a portfolio of out-of-state properties. They're single-family homes in Jacksonville, Florida, and I think we just got really, really lucky on those. Most turnkey properties are not home runs, but I think because we just bought in Jacksonville before Jacksonville blew up, we were able to refi in 2 years and get all our down payment back. So the 25% that we put down, we got everything back in 2 years because they had massive appreciation in that area. And you know what that meant when we got all our money back, and these were turnkey, so they were new builds and they had no, like, very low capex, very low expenses, and then they were even giving out 2 to 3 year leases on these properties. So it was all like just a home run kind of deal there, that once we got our money back, realized like, wow, it's infinite returns. When you get all the money back that you put in, sky's the limit. Every single dollar you make after that is infinite. So that was really cool seeing like the possibility of real estate and what could happen if you get lucky. But I would call that getting lucky. I wouldn't say there was any skill set involved. We just were in the right time, right place. And then at the same time, we had a lot of duds and lemons, and we had flips where we lost like 40K, and some, you know, we have one houseboat in Brentwood that's been just like a nightmare. Terrible tenants. They pay late every month. They have all kinds of complaints. The marina fees just keep climbing, and there's no rent control on marina fees. So I think it increased $1,200 a month over a span of 2 years. And now we're, you know, just at the mercy of this marina unless we want to move our houseboat. So there's been many things along the way that, you know, as we kind of just scaled and started to build our portfolio, that we learned like, wow, one property with one bad set of tenants could be the biggest headache. Whereas I have 12 properties in Kansas City and they're all running smoothly. I've got the 12 houses in Jacksonville, Florida, and they're all running smoothly. And, you know, good property managers make all the difference. If you can rely on them to run them for you, they shouldn't be calling you all the time. And I think that's the ultimate like passive income investing, is when you find someone to take care of your assets for you. You don't have to be self-managing. And you're not your own property manager, then you can rest easy knowing like that asset is still producing when you're sleeping. So that's kind of the way that I guess changed my mindset over time, is like, okay, instead of me being that person that boots on the ground and like deal finding and really like doing all the analysis, let me network. Because I think that's where my skill set is in networking and building connections and relationships and kind of just sharing the stories. And so it was my kind of advice that I give to a lot of investors is like, know where your skill sets are. What are your assets? What do you bring to the table? Are you really amazing at numbers? Because I'm not that amazing at numbers. I can do numbers, but I don't like spreadsheets. I can't be in them all day. So for me, that would just be grueling to sit in, you know, in front of the computer and like analyze deals all day. I prefer to network and find the people that have the good deals that can bring it to me, and then we can partner together and create I guess the symbiotic relationship together. So that's really where I kind of came to the table and said, like, I like to network. I like, you know, someone to find me deals, bring them to us. We'll assess if they're good deals, and then we can partner on them. And that's kind of how I've grown my portfolio over time, is like, instead of going out there to find deals and trading kind of that time equity for a property, instead, you know, finding the people that got the deals and had the network, utilizing their network, and then going in on properties with them.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. So kind of what you described was you increase your leverage every time. So in the beginning, you know, you either have time or money. What's more valuable? In the beginning, money is usually more valuable, so you either give up your time. So that's why when you had your triplex, I was the same way. My first property, I was cleaning it myself every weekend. I was happy to do it because it was like the first house that I owned. And yeah, you're really excited, right? Like, oh, this is my property. I own it. So I'm going to take care of it. Right. I had that mindset. You definitely had it with your triplex. But, you know, after a while, it doesn't become fun anymore. And you want to do other things. And that's when you get the leverage out. You know, that's when you start getting a cleaner. That's when you start getting handyman. Like I tried to change a toilet one time. It took me 8 hours. I said, you know what? I'm better off just working my pharmacist job, and I could just pay a plumber to do that, and I didn't even enjoy it. Right after 8 hours, and I still did it wrong. You know, glad you said that. And then next, you jumped into, you know, when did you invest in Jacksonville? What time window was that? What year?
It was right before the pandemic.
Okay,
So I don't know, like
2020.
2018.